Greetings all, this is Hairy Nick and welcome back to Brewing With, a series where we take a look at an upcoming X-Wing upgrade card and take a look at where we can put it into upcoming X-Wing lists. Today we're going to take a look at R5-TK. Now, last week I revealed this card in a sort of a spoiler video because it was spoiled in an unboxing video, and I gotta be honest, I wasn't really jazzed about this card back then, and I'm not still jazzed about this card. I don't know. But in response to me saying that on the video, a lot of you guys went, whoa, Nick, this card is awesome. Look at all the different applications we can use with it. And I'm still not convinced, but nevertheless, I will go through all the different applications in this video of what we can do with that card, and then you guys be the judge. You tell me at the end of the video what you think is the best way to use this. Do you think it's actually going to have a good impact on the game? And we'll see where we go from there. So R5-TK is a 0-point salvaged astromech. You can acquire target locks on friendly ships. You can attack friendly ships. I guess where I'm coming from on this is, when we get presented with new cards in X-Wing, especially splashy, interesting new cards that move into new design space, attacking your own ships is straight up new design space, no doubt about it. A lot of people, including myself, I'm not saying I'm above all this, we get so excited as the collective hive mind of X-Wing. We just get so excited and we start the list building and go, oh, how can we use this? How can we use this? But I just want to encourage you all to take a bit of a deep breath, take a step back and look at this card and just have a think about the fact that you are attacking your own ships. That is, without a doubt, a massive downside. I can't stress that enough. Attacking your ships is actively advancing your opponent's game plan, and that is terrible. And the way I want to put this in perspective is think about the card Blinded Pilot. If you haven't played X-Wing much and you've not come across this card, you will eventually. It's basically wrecked everyone's game at one point or another during an X-Wing tournament. It's done it for me several times. I hate this card with a burning passion. And basically it says, for one round, you can't shoot. It can lock you out of the game at a crucial moment. You don't get a shot and your opponent capitalizes on it and wins the game. And you just get very salty because you drew a Blinded Pilot. Now, not only with R5-TK are you not taking a shot, you are shooting one of your own ships. It's in a way actually twice as bad as Blinded Pilot, because you're not getting a crucial shot on your opponent and you're advancing their game plan by shooting one of your own ships. So right off the bat, you have to appreciate the massive downside with R5-TK, and that's just where I want you to come from. I'm happy to concede that this might be a good usable card beyond that fact, but we have to overcome that initial massive downside. We can't ignore that. It's a big deal shooting your own ships. It is a massive downside. But as many of you guys have pointed out, there are some tangible benefits from using this guy, and I'll go through them in this video, and then you can decide whether or not you actually want to use it. But I just wanted to warn you guys first of that reality. I think it's very tempting for new players to go and look, oh, there's this new splashy card I can use, and if you're not really that experienced in the game of X-Wing, I don't recommend you use this card because it's just going to make things very difficult for you. If you're an experienced player and you can see a great combo that you have practiced and can exploit, then this is probably a better card for you. Anyway, let's talk about the kind of platforms that R5-TK can go on. On the Scum faction, it can go on the Y-Wing. It can't go on the Jumpmaster. It just lost its Salvage Astromech slot. It can go on the Kimagila Fighter, which is the ship this comes with, and it can go on the Skurg Bomber, assuming that Skurg Bomber has the Havoc title equipped. On the Rebel faction, it can also go on Captain Nim as long as he has Havoc, which is most of the time anyway. And across those platforms, we have to look at the cards that actually benefit from R5-TK, as in a card that gives you an attack that actually gives you a benefit from shooting your own ships. And there actually are a few of those. I'm going to list those right now. So there are 5 cards that actually get some benefit from shooting your own ships. We have Tractor Beam, Assault Missiles, Ion Torpedoes, Harpoon Missiles, and the Scrambler Missiles. Now, first up, the Tractor Beam, unfortunately, is not an option currently because there is no platform that R5-TK can take that has the cannon slot, meaning there's no platform that can take both of these cards. So even though this might be a benefit in the future, you can shoot your own ships to tractor them, maybe barrel roll them out of the way of a shot, or get them into range one of their own shot. That could be cool, but for the time being, let's not worry about that. Let's have a look at all these missiles and torpedoes. So basically, we have a few upgrade cards here that do damage to the ship that they hit and do splash damage or splash control to the nearby ships. And that's the assault missiles, ion torpedoes, and harpoon missiles. And this is something a lot of you guys have been talking about and saying, hey, this is something we should look at. And basically, you have to weigh up with these options whether it's actually worth hitting your own ships, doing damage to your own ships in order to proc this, and you also have to ask the question, and this is the real clincher for me, this is why I overall am not a fan of this way of thinking, is it just easier just to shoot your opponent's ships? A lot of you are getting hyped because, oh yes, we can fly a Z-95 or a Jumpmaster at my opponent's ship and just shoot the Jumpmaster Z-95. But unless they have really high agility aces, it's probably just easier shooting your opponent at the end of the day. Let's just, you know, Occam's razor, let's just go to the simplest option. If you want assault missiles to work, just shoot your opponent, straight up. It's probably going to be easier. Sure, if they have Sunterfell, yes, okay, it's going to be easier to use a Bump Master and shoot your Bump Master. But you know, 9 out of 10 lists don't use those aces. They don't use Sunterfell or the Inquisitor or whatever. A lot of lists is using a lot of low agility, very healthy ships, and frankly, it's just better to shoot them directly. And that's why I'm not so jazzed about this. And on top of all of that, you are actively advancing your opponent's game plan by damaging your own ships. And that's not ideal. It's not ideal. I don't know, and I'm going to say this, and this is my opinion, I don't feel that the upside from taking that strategy is enough to make R5-TK worth it. I don't feel like the upside of, say, getting some splash damage from your harpoon or assault, or the ion from an ion pulse missile is enough to negate the problem of you're actively doing damage to your own ship. I just think that is way too much downside to negate that. But as a lot of you have pointed out, the Scrambler missile is an example of a missile that does not do damage. It's not only an example of one, it's the only one currently that does that, because it gives the ship you hit and all the ships around it a jam token, and a jam token actively negates one of your opponent's, or in this case your own ship's, focus, evade, or blue target lock tokens. Once they take a jam token, they must remove one of those. If they don't have one, they retain the jam token until they take one, in which case it gets removed immediately, which can be annoying for some ships. I think negating tokens is going to be an annoying factor of this card. I don't think jam tokens are going to take over the games in terms of their power level, but there is no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it, and I have to concede, after all these options, I think the Scrambler Missile is actually something that you might consider comboing with R5-TK, because there's a lot of choice involved here, and if you shoot your own ship, say you've got a Bump Master. A Bump Master is a great example of something you can use this with. The Bump Master probably doesn't want to take too many tokens. It might take a focus or a target lock at some stage, but it's not reliant on those. If it has to lose one at some point during the game, it's not going to mind too much, so that's actually okay. And I can see the tangible benefit of taking this with Scrambler Missile, and that's interesting at the very least. And the Scrambler Missile can go on to the Skurg Bomber or the Kimagila Fighter. I think it's going to find a good home on the Skurg Bomber. It might just be a great backup plan if your primary or turret's not working that well. It only costs 2 points. A 2-point missile is nothing to turn your nose up at. And look, if you absolutely have no other options for that unique salvage astromech, perhaps this is not a terrible option. And I will concede that this might be the place where this card finds its home, maybe on a Kimagila Fighter. But I'm very uneasy about putting this on a Kimagila Fighter, because I feel like that ship is going to want unhinged astromech on pretty much all its builds. So taking R5-TK, it means you burn the salvaged astromech slot. And I know it costs 1 point less than the unhinged astromech, but I just don't think I'm ever going to be able to justify not spending that 1 point. And getting those hard 3 turns green, it's just way too powerful, especially with what that ship's trying to do. So in terms of the way I think this should be used, I'm thinking it's probably the Skurg Bomber. On either faction, it seems to be where this card makes the most sense. With the Havoc title, it can take a unique salvage astromech. R5-TK, of course, is unique. And that just makes a lot of sense. Right out of the gate, with the options we have, I am just going to ignore the Y-Wing. I don't think there's a good option. It can only go with ion torpedoes on that platform, and I don't think that's good enough to do what this card's trying to do. It makes sense on the Kimagila Fighter, but I feel like there are just better options. So the Skurg Bomber is what I'm primarily looking at as the strongest option to use R5-TK with. Now, a lot of you guys have actually suggested some lists that I can use this in, and I'm not going to go through specific lists because I'm looking specifically at Brewing with this card, but I do want to have a look at some specific targets. Because obviously if you're shooting your own ships, you probably have to think about what those ships are going to be. You need to decide what ships in your squad you don't mind shooting under certain circumstances. And I want to go through those now. The most obvious one, and the one that you guys suggested right out of the gate, was a Z95 Headhunter. It's simply the cheapest ship you can take on the Scum faction, or the Rebel faction indeed. It can go on either one. But on the Scum faction, it also has the illicit upgrade slot. And that makes a lot of sense, because in the illicit upgrade slot, you can take Dead Man's Switch or Feedback Array. Now, many of you guys suggested taking Assault Missile alongside R5-TK as the platform, and using a Z95 Bunyari Pirate with Dead Man's Switch. And I again want to urge you guys to be cautious, because a lot of you guys said, but look at this is amazing. And look, you are spending 5 points on an Assault Missile. You are making the Assault Missile twice as powerful for a total of 14 points. I don't think that's good. I think that's straight up bad. 19 points for double Assault Missile power is not good. And you're taking your own firepower off the board in the process. Okay, I'm just going to say it right now. I don't think that's a good idea. I think that is a bad idea. Look, if you disagree with me, guys, say so in the comments. Explain why that combo is a good idea. But I just think you're wrecking your own game plan. You're setting up way too many moving pieces, which are just going to be hard to activate. And it's just straight up going to be frustrating and give you a negative play experience, which is not what we want in X-Wing. However, if we're talking about the feedback array, I think this actually starts to get a bit of benefit. Because the feedback array on the Bunyari Pirate, commonly known as the Bug Zapper, if you guys have been playing long enough to play with those guys, is already an okay build. I think in recent times the Z95s, particularly this build, have gone out of favour because of direct damage, auto damage. They just don't survive long enough. But the Bug Zapper list was a legit thing back in the day. And if you want to play that list, look, it's still not terrible. And you want to use R5-TK, particularly with something like the Scrambler Missile, this makes sense as a target, because it's something that already wants to be flying in range 1 of your opponent's ships. And I think that actually gives R5-TK a lot more justification. Because, straight up, I don't want to just fly Z95 at my opponent's ships in order to try and get R5-TK to work. I think that's just too complex. The strategy has too many moving parts, and at the end of the day, I think if I was going to do that, I'd rather just shoot my opponent than try and shoot my own Z95. But if my Z95 is already wanting to fly at my opponent's ship, that makes a lot more sense. And if this is something you want to try, fair enough. I still wouldn't recommend this with the damaging missiles like the Harpoon or the Assault Missile. But with Scrambler Missile, you know what? This makes a lot of sense. Maybe you don't care about the tokens on your Z95, and if you want to fly an R5-TK equipped ship with Scrambler Missile alongside a Bug Zapper, I think that makes a lot of sense. But what I think makes even more sense, and thank you for pointing this out, guys, because I actually didn't think of this before you guys mentioned it, is the Bump Master. The Jump Master equipped with Feedback Array, Intel Agent, and an EPT, probably Trick Shot or Adaptability or something like that. And this, again, is a ship that just wants to be next to your opponent's ship anyway. Again, I just want to bring it back to, I think the best way to do this is not to try and fly a ship near your opponent's ship just to get R5-TK value, but use a ship that wants to do it anyway, and if you happen to get it working, then you get some free value. Think of it that way. And the Bump Master is absolutely something that wants to fly into range 1 of your opponent's ship. It's something that actually wants to be touching your opponent's ship. And that to me just makes a lot of sense. Again, Scrambler Missile is my preferred choice here because the Bump Master doesn't really rely on tokens. It might just give you some benefit over your opponent's ship. If you're fighting against something that really is giving you a headache, say you have a Mega Leader and you want to get rid of that evade token, you can. You can with the Scrambler Missile. Even if he has you locked, it doesn't matter. You're not shooting him, so you don't have to lose all your dice modification. You shoot your Jump Master. Now, these are very specific scenarios, but it might just be the thing that makes R5-TK relevant, and I want to bring those up. Now, just one more target I want to talk about. And thank you so much, Arj. I noticed you posted this on the Facebook page, and it's something, again, I didn't think of, and it's a great idea. If you take R5-TK on the Rebel Havoc equipped Captain Nim, you can take a captured tie. And of course, the Captured Tie can take the Sabine's Masterwork title card. It can take Illicits, which then you can look at Dead Man Switch or Feedback Array. Again, I think Feedback Array is the stronger option, but if you're not into that, that's fine. But this is interesting because it's a ship that your opponent actively can't shoot under certain circumstances. So it means it can just fly up into your opponent's face and become a real pain in the butt. And it's something that you can just shoot because it basically has no tangible downside from just flying your opponent. And you might be able to use scramble missiles or something like that. I still really urge on the side of caution when we're talking about Dead Man Switch. To get the Captured Tie title working, you really want to spend points on getting probably Ahsoka Tano, because you have to be higher pilot skill than your opponent, so you take VI on Ahsoka Tano. And you probably don't want Dead Man Switch in that build because you're taking a very expensive ship off the board in that state, and that's just not ideal, frankly. I'm not a big fan of that. The cool thing about Captured Tie too is it can take things like Sabine Wren, then you can drop bombs, and with the added benefit of being able to shoot it with the Scrambler Missile, perhaps Ahsoka Tano will get a bit of extra value out of her. I don't know if there's going to be a great list coming up with Rebel Captain Nim and Ahsoka Tano, but it's a combo that might be worth looking at. And at the end of the day, thank you for posting this, Arj, because this is something where I feel like, okay, we're finally getting some real tangible benefit out of R5-TK. I still don't think it's the best option for the Skirg Bomber, in my opinion. I stress that strongly. This is just my opinion, guys, so don't get angry at me and yell at me that I say I'm wrong. If you think I'm wrong, say so in the comments and give me justification. I don't love R5-TK, but I want to thank you guys a lot because you've given me a lot of food for thought in terms of things we can be doing with him. And at the end of the day, I'm not going to tell you guys not to fly him. It's completely up to you, but I just struggle to see value with him at this point in time. There may be some fantastic platforms coming out for him soon. And as I said in that initial spoiler video, I think it's going to be a lot like the card Genius, because Genius was frankly useless when he first came out. He could only go on the Y-Wing. There was basically no benefit from putting him on a Y-Wing. It just hurt your own game strategy. Just like R5-TK, I feel like in general, he just hurts your own game strategy. Even in the best scenario, you're still taking a shot away from just shooting your opponent. And I feel like 9 times out of 10, that's just bad. But there might be an upgrade card or pilot coming out soon, which gives you massive capitalization off the back of R5-TK, and he might be something worth looking at. But in the meantime, a lot of you guys certainly think he's already something to look at, and I'm very excited to see what you guys think of how you guys play him. I'll be excited to see how he plays at local game shop, but for the time being, guys, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe, like our Facebook page, and I will catch you later.